So welcome to the session, Course Flow, a visual design tool to align program, course, and pedagogical design. And our speakers for this session today are Rob Cassidy from Concordia University, Elizabeth Charles from Dawson College and Saltese, and Janaea Gripper from Dawson College and Saltese as well. And we should have two presentations today. I'm not sure. I will let you know, but for now, the first one will be taking place. So Elizabeth and Janaea, I will give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Carol, and welcome everyone. Can you turn on your cameras? I mean, unless you definitely don't want to be seen for a moment so that we can get a sense of who you are. Hi, everyone.
Yes, it's good to see your faces.
Oh, I know. Yeah, a few faces that we recognize. This is wonderful. Hi, and thank you for joining us. No, we're a small group and we're going to make it as interactive as possible. So please stop us as we go along. We'll try to do some pausing as we progress through the presentation, because we know that it's very difficult to be listening to someone talk for long periods of time. So I'm going to start the presentation by going through our first few slides, setting up the stage for what is the problem. So first off, I'd like to thank Janaea for joining me today. The original crew of authors, two of them were ill and not able to join us, but we are very thankful that we're here. And I also would like to have an acknowledgement of our support, our subvention, as they say in French, from the Ministry of Education in Quebec. Sorry. So what are the problems that we have as educators, as professional development people? Things like, assessing our students, understanding what the learning outcomes are, rubrics, evidence, mapping, improving. We also have new problems of e-learning and virtual learning and online learning. And then we're faced with demands such as having specific, measurable, achievable, rewarding, timely assessments or instruction, and then levels of what kinds of instruction and learning do we want? Everybody's familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. And then, of course, the ubiquitous online instruction and education that we're all faced with. So with those, teaching and learning professionals face challenges that we think are communicating what we know, what we would like the faculty that we work with to understand. And if you're a faculty member, the communication is on the other side of it, but understanding what's being communicated. And then we're faced with the challenge of convincing people. Do we have enough evidence? Do we have enough proof? Do we have enough data? Do we have an understanding of what's to be measured? And as a design professional, we're faced with problems of designing with faculty, designing with our own colleagues, designing curricula, designing programs. And then we have the issue of collaborating across technologies, collaborating across disciplines, collaborating across ways of understanding. So these are all problems that we've been faced with as both instructional designers, faculty who wish to have a better understanding of the work that we're doing with students, and probably administrators trying to understand and audit all the things that are going on in these very complex, sorry, I pressed a little bit too fast, a very complex system of instructional needs. So this presentation was set up so that we can talk about a solution that we have, which is called course flow. We'll give you a brief understanding of the history of course flow. We'll give you some features, and then we'll spend a lot of time. Janaea in particular will show you some of the case solutions that we've had. So where do we find these solutions? Well, the best place that we can find solutions, we think, is between the research and practice chasm. So we build together, and that's where course flow comes in. So it covers things like distance education, we learn from the fields of distance education, from computer-supported collaboration, from blended learning, from education technology, all these fields coming together, both as researchers and practitioners. And we built this tool that we call course flow. It was built in this co-design approach. And this, by the way, is Rob Cassidy, and this person in profile is Jeremy Choquette. So with faculty as both researchers and practitioners, with graduate students, some of the young ladies here, this is how we built this tool. So it went from this very blocks in a simple PowerPoint with lots of edits on it to what we'll show you today. So course flow has 3 instructional levels. The program level with its visualization and mapping of the program alignment process. The course level, which is a dynamic outline, course outline and schedule, and it has the facilitation of course objectives that can be tagged and identified, as well as linking to course content. The lesson level, which is what we would consider the pedagogical level, where you can map out the activity that you plan for a lesson, as well as adopting pedagogical patterns that are synonymous with things that we consider active learning or student-centered learning, and as well as visualizing the student engagement opportunities. So those are the 3 levels that we'll talk about today, and in more detail with some of the examples that Janaea will show you. So course flow reveals the structure of the curriculum map and the relationships between learning outcomes and content. So at the program level, this is what course flow looks like. It has identified, in this particular case, this is an example from engineering at McGill, and one of the engineering departments, the chemical engineering, for instance, we have mapped out their semesters. So there are 6 semesters. I can only show you 4 in this one screenshot, but you can see how they identify all of the courses, and we have relationships between the courses. We have an interactive map here that we can go to briefly, and it will show you how the interactivity of the map works. So the courses that are related to each other, the link is in yellow. So you can build out an entire program of showing the relationships between courses, between the types of courses that are in a program. Janaea will show you more of this, I believe. Going to another view from the program level, you can do an auditing view whereby you can see all of the attributes or the outcomes that one needs for a course, and the courses themselves are on the columns. So basically what you've created is a program grid. So these 2 views, these 2 visualizations of the same tool that we've created provides you with these two visualizations, one being a workflow or a flow chart visualization, and the other being a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet is also exportable for those people who need to present, audit, justify to their programs or to the administration what is happening in their programs. At the course level, now we've dropped down one level, and at the course level, you're able to do things like organizing. It's like an interactive map of the weeks of the semester. So week 1, week 2, week 3, for instance. And here we have the things that the teacher wants the students to do in preparation for their class, the activities that happen within the class, and the artifacts or the assessments, the assignments that the students are asked to produce, and importantly, the assessments. That is linked to the learning outcomes, which you enter specifically as what exactly do you plan for this course? What are the learning outcomes of the course, or the learning objectives, if you prefer? And we can map these directly to the course flow. So in other words, Janea will show you, but these learning outcomes can then be mapped to the times in the course. This too can be shown in a spreadsheet. So you can audit your particular course, what you're seeing, what you're doing, when is it happening in your course in this dynamic flow. And then in addition to that, you can add materials directly into the blocks that are the weeks of your course, or the artifacts, the assignments of your course, or the assessments. For instance, here, this hyperlink allows you to link directly to an activity that you plan to do on a specific date, or to an activity that you want your students to engage in outside of class in preparation. Dropping down one more level, we have what is the lesson level, and this level is the pedagogical level. So what do I want my students to do in a specific day? I want them to come into the class. I want them to do some problem solving, some peer review, some analysis and feedback. These are the kinds of things that you can map out, not for just yourself, but also for your student. So you can see this one course, as we went through, it was the same course that the general chemistry course. And at each visualization, we have a different piece that we can show. So this chemistry course can show you exactly what the teacher plans for the students on every week. And this is the example at that. This would be an instance of what might be happening on week 2 in that chemistry course. I'm going to stop here, and that way get a sense of if I've overwhelmed, and then we're also going to be getting Janea to show you some of a more interactive version of course flow, so you get a sense of what it really is doing. So any questions so far? Don't be shy you can put, raise hand or just raise your hand. Jennifer.
Thank you for this. I get the mapping. I'm curious if you're using this, if you're finding a correlation with Bernstein's idea of vertical versus horizontal development of knowledge. And I see this being very applicable in the chemistry and the engineering, as you've described, which tend to have more vertical accumulation of knowledge, versus arts, which tend to be much more horizontal and varied paths in and out and less linear in their development. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that.
I think we probably, I'm not completely familiar with the two different paths that you're describing, so I can't contrast as well as you probably would need to answer your question. But I believe we can probably, I think you can probably work within the learning outcomes and import your paradigm into the learning outcome so that it allows you to tag the trajectory that you're looking for. What we've done, so just to sort of situate you, CourseFlow is still a tool in development. So if there's something that it doesn't do that you think you would like it to do and seems reasonable for us to invest in, that's definitely something we can explore. But I would believe that the hierarchy that I'm showing you of it's basically built on a hierarchy of the high level. In the case of the colleges, it would be considered a competency, and then a sub competency would be the next level down on the branch, and then below that there's one more level, and that level can be learning outcomes or whatever. So you have a pyramid shape of levels of granularity of the objectives that you have, but maybe that's not answering your question.
It does. Where the question was originally coming from was when you had the different courses and these yellow lines, and they were.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay, because you're still getting into what I was asking about. I think it's more of these are the paths as opposed to a more choose your own adventure, which tends to be the arts and tends to be a little bit messier, as opposed to they're not mutually exclusive. But I was just curious about it, but your answer is perfectly satisfactory. Thank you.
Okay, and certainly, okay, so now that I understand, you are talking about the program level, I think we only map what you tell us. If you tell us that yours is more choose your adventure, then there would be some kind of back end calculation that we would want, we could help build for you to say that the student must have at least 3 of these 5 things. Whereas in in something like chemistry, it might be, or engineering, there may be less options. And the reason that one was built was to support students in understanding what are the consequences of them not following the path that is most typical. Are there any other questions before Janaea shows George?
Hi, yeah, I have a quick question, and that is who does the work entering all this information? Because you want this to be versatile, so an instructor could go in and enter information quickly, but then it could lead to all kinds of idiosyncrasies, and not a very coherent picture. So how do you balance that off?
Well, Janaea right now has been our primary entering for the program level. Individual teachers have they have put their own courses in, and you're absolutely right. At the teacher level, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that build in, but we believe that those are where, again, we are. I should have started with saying that this is part of our research practice type of development. So we're also observing how people use it, and therefore the idiosyncrasies are not are welcomed, because now we can see how people might want to use it and how they might want to enter the information. We are becoming more, again, Janaea can talk to this, where we are seeing best practices, like what is the most efficacious way of using CourseFlow. And I think maybe Janaea, you can, let you take over so that you can elaborate.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will share my screen, but I think it's interesting that you asked that question because I know that's one of the biggest things that teachers or instructors wonders, like how long would it take me to even do this, you know, or how much effort will I have to put into it? And so I wanted to show you guys a course that we did work alongside an instructor to help him do this. So I did put a lot of the effort of like inputting things, but it's also because he was a continuing education instructor who had a full-time job and, you know, not as much time. So I was able to support in that way. But I wanted to show you just the process, if you will, that I've kind of broken down into 3 steps. 3 steps is always a good number, to help us see, you know, what it looks like to put things in and to have a result that's very usable. So I'll start with something that we're all super familiar with, which is a syllabus. So essentially I take whatever information that is ready. So whatever state the syllabus is in, and I pull out the course objectives, I go through and I look at what aspects he has in his class, you know, the test, the homework. You go down and you see where there's a syllabus of just the different steps throughout the weeks, what he wants to focus on. And I'm taking you through all of this so that you have a better sense of what's in the actual course flow when we look at the course flow, right? Because this is it's an intro to machine learning class, and I'm assuming that most of us aren't Python instructors here. So he has this layout here, and then at the bottom even, he has another schedule where he puts the dates. And it incorporates here the assignments, the assessments, things like that. So we take this information as it is, and we pull out all of that to be able to put it into the flow that we want in course flow. Here, I'll start with the course objectives. So I was able to just input the course objectives as an outline in order to start with what his language is, what he thinks about more often. We also worked with Concordia. So we got a list of the competencies for that program or for that course. And we were able to input as an outline the competencies and all of the learning outcomes for each of those. So once you've input that, which can be pretty simple because you can put it into an Excel and then import it, then you would go ahead and create your course. So clicking here, I'll open the course workspace. So this actually is the end product, but I'll kind of walk through what things look like here. So you have at the top the title and a small description, and then this was decided upon by the instructor, like what the columns look like, because these are the different aspects of his course that he wanted students to have an idea of what is happening in the course and when, and to follow. So for him, every week, he wants some aspect of preparation. They use also a tutorial system called Corbett so that students can get practice offline. And then there's in-class lesson or lecture, followed by in-class hands-on practice. And then after class, there are the offline assignments or the homework and a project. So it's a lot, right? And it's a continuing education course as well. So it's very important for him as a teacher to be able to clearly say to his students, this is all that we're having for our course. This is how you follow it. This is what's happening one after the other. So as we go down, you'll see that I'll go to, let's say week 2, because it's the most typical. He had them look at corporate modules, and you can see when you hover over it, there's that highlight, right? So what they're learning here is immediately feeding into what they're also supposed to be learning in their class. And in the same way, that's feeding into the practice, which is feeding into the theoretical assignment and the coding practice, which directly feeds into the project. So this flow gives both the instructor and the students this very clear understanding and can help them both just stay on the same page. And if you open it, you have the same information that he had in his syllabus, except in a way that is coupled with this visualization of the course as a whole. And you can move through pretty smoothly. I won't open all of them because it's a lot of information, but you can move through pretty smoothly and see that every week it's outlined in the same way to show them, you know, what's happening one after another. Now, when it comes to the competencies and objectives that I showed you earlier, we worked alongside the instructor as well to first, you know, after I have taken all of this information, translated it and converted it into this, we worked alongside him for like kind of the second step, which is getting these competencies validated. So given the information that was in, let's say, the Corbett module or the lesson and lecture, we then worked together to tag his objectives and the CCE competencies. And tagging is super simple. So you would open it, you would drag it, and you drop, and then you have all of the different outcomes or competencies that are assigned or attached to that particular part of the course. So for the lesson, as you can see, he's touching on a lot of different concepts, but depending on what your course looks like and how your course is made up, you might not be touching on the same what's the word? The same level, I guess, of granularity, like the same small, you know, sections of things in the way that he is. So you can see here, and let's say if we highlight it, we can then see that it's highlighted because that's where it's coming from. So that's essentially, if I try to zoom out to give you guys a better sense, you'll also see that it's highlighted here because that exact same competency here is also touched on in multiple places. So it gives, again, the instructor a good idea to see how often is he touching on this? When is it that he's assessing it? Perhaps it comes up again here and he can say, I'm assessing it here, but I haven't touched on it enough or taught it enough. So it gives a visualization using all of the basic materials that he already has, his syllabus, the competencies, the grid that Concordius gives him. And then you put it all in this one frame all together, and you can see and visualize everything all together. I want to also show, I'm going to zoom back out if it lets me, or zoom back in, I'm sorry. I'm going to show the outcome view, because you see here when you hover over that 2, you'll see those 2 outcomes that have been assigned to that node. As Liz was showing earlier, there's a view that allows you to see it in a chart. So again, a lot of information, but I'll try my best to make it a bit clearer. So once you get, one moment.
So you can see the value here is if you have a sense of you need to either you are audited, meaning that someone in your your department chair says your students aren't doing as well as they should be. You can actually say, well, where am I falling short? I'm covering these things that are being assessed, and I'm covering them in both my lesson, in my homework, in my assignments, and yet my students are not doing well. And or you can have a conversation with your with your department or your curriculum committee, depending on who you are. The other part is you can have conversations as colleagues and say, we're all having the same problem with our students, and therefore can we change something? So I'm seeing Carol is telling us we have 2 minutes left. So I guess the other presenter showed up.
No, she's not showing up. So you have until
okay.
4:15. So 1 more minute.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Did we use up all that time so quickly? Thanks. I'm sorry.
Who knew? Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can turn, so there's an awful lot left, but maybe we can use the last few minutes then just to have a sense of questions and, and what would you like us, we'd be happy to discuss this with you in different ways, at different places, like if you want to discuss this offline, in the future, or we also have a Salties presentation, a Salties conference that happens in June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, where we have, we'll be talking about some of these tools that we've been developing. So there's another opportunity for you to talk to us if you wish. But any questions?
So
yes, it's an open resource.
yes.
It's free. It's available through the Salties website. We give workshops and drop-ins. So if you'd like to have a one-on-one, we're happy to walk you through the use of the tool. It's very, very intuitive. It's very much drag and drop.
Mhm.
The complexity of it comes in when the things that Janaea was showing you, when you start adding the levels of outcomes and whatever it is that your institution uses as learning objectives or learning outcomes or competencies, or any of those different vocabularies can be adapted.
So I put the link in the chat. I'm not sure if that's the right one.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you
And
so much, Carol.
No problem.
If you go to our events calendar, you'll find a drop-in session. The next one is the 28th. It's on a Wednesday, but if you guys can, you can just pop in and get more of your questions answered, or we can work through how this works if you had any more questions after the session as well.
So thank you so much, Elizabeth and Janaea, and also to Rob Cassidy and Jeremy Chaquette, who weren't able to be with you guys today. This was a really great session, and thank you all for participating. I think the last event for today is the speed networking event. So you may leave. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you so much again for being here today, and have fun networking. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Carol. Thank you all for
Thanks, everyone.
attending. Thanks,
Bye.
Janaea.
Thank you.
Thanks, sis.
Bye.